Well, hello, Meg. I haven't talked to Meg in 18 years. So the name of this episode is I haven't seen or talked to you in 18 years. How's it going, Meg?
Samuel, that is crazy. 18 years.
Yeah.
And yet I see you and I feel like it's not that long. Like you and Heather have always been close in my heart.
A little grayer these days, but...
Oh, well, mine was just done yesterday, so...
No, you look the same to me, pretty much.
You do too, actually.
Thanks. So, to introduce you to our listeners, Meg Goldthorp and I were colleagues in Pennsylvania many years ago. We recently had a podcast with Joe King, who was our boss. And Meg was literally the first person I met when I moved to Pennsylvania in 1995. Meg and I's responsibility was to raise at least, I don't know if she remembers this, but it was our job to raise at least $100,000 a month. It's a lot of money. She is the kind of person that I always said that if I needed a glass of water in the Sahara Desert in 5 minutes, I would call Meg because she would be the one to get it. One of the most resourceful people I've ever known. A positive, cheerful ass kicker is the way I remember you. And so this is going to be fun. Meg and I truly have not talked. Last time we talked was in New York in 2004. And Ian was in a stroller, so there you go.
And that is, now he's 19 years old and digging, I am going to the grave quicker.
It's crazy.
I know.
So
I remember that day of me sitting at the desk and you walking in, and you had a box, and I remember you put the wedding picture of Heather out first. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And you had just gotten married.
Yeah.
And you had gotten back from Hawaii, right?
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah. And I remember it like it wasn't that.
I think
sometimes
it was
it feels a long time ago, and then other times I look at you and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Not a day has passed.
I think it was August 11th, 1995, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my gosh, how do you remember that?
Because I'm a Rain Man.
You are Rain Man.
It's very bizarre. But, well, I remember it because I think I got that $100,000 check from Joe Hardy. Well, I guess we can say that. Who cares?
Joe Hardy, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's still alive, actually. Generous man.
Is he really?
I think he is.
Wow.
But we got a $100,000 check from a donor exactly 1 month after I was there. I remember that. So I think that's why I remember August 11th. And that was actually September 11th that happened, believe it or not, 1995. So anyway.
And you and Ann, didn't you and Ann go and get it? Or our, leader, our fearless leader?
Yeah, it was Ann and I.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember because... I don't know if we can put a lot of this on the air because we might get sued, but it was a significant day for Mr. Hardy, and he was short in time, and he was waiting to get on a helicopter to go somewhere.
Right.
And I'm not going to say where, but I just remember it because he looked up at me and said, "Who do I?" I mean, Ann was making the pitch, and he looked up at me and said, "Who do I make this out to?" And I said, Republican State Committee of Pennsylvania. And because she's like, we're hoping you could do, we're going to bleep all this stuff out. We're hoping you could do 25, Joe. And he pushes the check to her, and it's for $100,000. And
oh, my gosh.
She's just like, oh, Joe. Oh, you remember how she talked?
I can hear her.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah.
And we were off the races. That was the same trip where I got on the wrong bridge in Pittsburgh, and she's like, I don't, who where are you at? I don't know. I'm with some guy from Nebraska. They put me with some guy from Nebraska, but those were good times. They were growing times. I learned a lot from that job. And there were a lot of hard challenges that you and I faced together as far as having to raise this money very quickly, and it was stressful, but you honestly took a lot of the stress away from me immediately, and I'll never forget that, and I always appreciate that, because you're always so positive and can do, and so everything that millennial generation is not in these days. But
it's horrible.
But I don't. Do you? So my question is: do you remember some of those challenges, or do you tend to remember the better times? Because honestly, I have to think about some of those challenges. There were days where I was physically ill to come to work.
Right.
But I tend to remember the victories. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So how's it for you? How is your memories?
I tend to usually remember the more positive things. However, I do remember just scary days and stressing the heck out, but being able to call some of our donors and be me, and somehow, between the two of us, we were always able to meet that. I know that we made Ann happy, but I know she always put the gauntlet down, like, this is what we need. If we want to pay our staff this, this is what we need.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid of big numbers at all, it was up to us to produce the big numbers.
Yeah, I know, right?
And of course, those political nutcases. I used to say, for every one person that can raise money, there's 10 jackasses that can spend it, which is very true. And about halfway into my career, I figured that out, and I became the spender. So, but I also think, because I was a fundraiser. And I told potential clients this, that I understand what it takes to raise $1,000. I know what it takes to raise $10,000. And when I'm asking you to make a decision to spend $10,000, I don't do that willy-nilly. I understand that this is better have value on what we're trying to accomplish. So I think my perspective was different than a lot of guys that spent, the operatives that spend these tens of thousands of dollars. And I think that, that's how I developed my reputation within the business, was the fundraising part of it. And so.
Well, it says a lot, because not everybody can do that, for sure. And I will never forget, you just reminded me, actually, and I've thought about it over the years, how many times that we were asked to raise a certain amount of money for a certain purpose, and then we would find out the next day it had to go to something else. And I remember you would go into Joe and get so upset because we were trying to get it. Yeah, because
but I grew from that, though, Meg, honestly, because my perspective flipped. So the $100,000 a month that we mentioned was just for the baseline operations of that place.
Yes.
And any political money was really outside of that. And so there would be times when we thought, well, we had $25,000 or whatever, we had a bunch of money lined up for this one, for the operations, when in fact it went to political. And that was a growing lesson for me, the understanding that really they're different buckets, and we were just mad that they weren't we thought they were going to put it in a different bucket than what they did, but the bottom line is they're going to spend it regardless. So, yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah. I remember that. Like, well, what the heck? I thought we were going to spend this on that. And like, no. But that wasn't the finance team. It's never their job to dictate where the money goes. So it was a good lesson. It was a good lesson.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was. It's I actually really enjoyed my job there with you. I mean, I really did. I loved when Ann was there, and it was that first group. And we went through a lot together, and I think I felt like everybody was willing to help each other in different ways, and that was always appreciative. If we had an event, the others would help.
Yeah, everybody pitched in. Yep. It was all hands on deck. Yep, for sure.
It was good. It was good.
Like I said, one of the lessons you taught me was not to stress over events, because as I told Joe in the podcast, I used to get, I'd done the similar work in Nebraska, and I hated events. And I told you that the first day. I hate events.
You did, yeah.
I can't stand it. Well, I love events. Well, I'm like, take them. I don't freaking want them.
Have them all.
but you really taught me. It was a valuable lesson to me that you taught me, because I did. I mean, after that, since the year since that, I've done. I worked for the Republican National Committee. I was basically flying around helping state parties do guess what events, but events with the president or the vice president.
Yeah.
But I just never after that I never got keyed up about it like I did before I got and met you. So thank you. That's a big thank you to you. That's a big credit to you. That's something that I kind of learned from you, is just not to sweat it. Is you never did. I mean, and it always came together, and it always amazed me. Like, oh my God, this is not going to work, and like, and it always came together. You always you're like a cat, man. You always landed on your feet. So,
thank you, Sam. That's a very kind thing to say.
I appreciated that. So, what did you any learning?
We had fun, didn't we? I mean, we laughed a lot.
Well, again, we remember you kind of remember that. But it was stressful. But yes, we did. Yeah. I mean, we made our way. We made our way.
I think when you first met me, you did not. You were just kind of like, whoa.
Well, our personalities are polar opposite.
Yeah,
polar.
They really are.
I'm Mr. Spreadsheet, Mr.
Yeah.
Average this and percentages and da 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 da, and you were more of like, whoa, we're let's just call him right now. I'm like, we can't call him right now. We have to get prepared. Exactly. So it was a good experience from that standpoint. Did you now? Let me ask you this: Did I pass anything on to you that you've used in the years since we worked together? Hopefully. We'll edit out the dead air, but...
No. I was waiting for you to finish because I feel like I keep talking over you. No, you did. You absolutely did. And one of the best things was sometimes I do fly by the seat of my pants too much, and you would have to reel me in a little bit. Like, okay, it evened me out a little bit more, and I needed that because... I can't say these names either, but, let me just call this, and you're like, wait a minute. We did this, and they gave this, and you don't want to do that. And so, no, I mean, I had fun doing it, and we always did get it together as a team, and I really do believe that we were a team doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think you were good at reeling me in a little bit and not jumping all the time. I did what had to get done, that we needed to do, but so did you. I mean, you were amazing. Everybody really, the people out there who we raised money from, they liked you. And I think they liked me. And we actually...
they loved you. They loved you because you're always perky. I mean, you'd call these guys like, "Hi, honey, how are you today?" And you're just freaking milking them. I mean, you're so good at it.
I'm still that person. I know you are. The same exact way.
That's fine.
I have a John's sister. Oh my gosh, if I call her honey or sweetie, I think she's gonna punch me in the face one day. I'd like
to meet her because I identify with her.
Yeah, but then when you got me and you knew it was who I was, you would call me Pumpkin, and then I thought, okay, all right, it's all good now. We're going to be able to do this.
Most people that know me are going to be shocked I called anybody Pumpkin, but you're it.
That's it. I feel so special.
So what do people misunderstand about you the most?
I think that they think that this isn't the real me, being happy and up and how I speak. After I had the kids, I worked a part-time job in an ER. And
what have you done in the last 18 or 25 years? By the way, I don't even know. I mean, I know you left a PA and you went to work for the Harrisburg Symphony.
Yes.
Symphony, not sympathy. Symphony.
Yep.
And that's about the last I really knew what you were doing. I mean, I think you were in the healthcare industry for a while. So what have you been up to?
So no, what happened at the Symphony is I got sick. So I tried to stay working, but it kind of beat me up a little bit, and I had to stop working, which really bummed me out. I can't probably say his name either. The Attorney General, wait, no, what was he? LZ, do you remember those initials? Zim.
Well, Heather worked for the Attorney General. I can't remember his name.
Okay. Well, he's the one who brought me over to the symphony. He's the one who talked me into it. And unfortunately, I got hired as the finance director. Everything went into shambles there, and I kind of took over, but then I got sick. So, like I said, I tried to hang in there and work, but I couldn't, and had to stop. And then I really didn't have another job for a long time because then I had the kids. Right. Then, here I am, think it's what I wanted to do my whole life. It's never going to happen, and I get two.
Yeah.
Two amazing boys.
That's a fact. That's a fact. You always wanted kids, so I'm so happy for you. It's like, fast forward, you got them. Okay, they're almost out the door.
Yeah, now pray for me, though, now, because they're 17 and 19.
Well, yeah, you just tell them, Sammy, Uncle Sammy, the one they don't know, will come and lay down a beating.
I know. They're good boys. They have great hearts. They're compassionate and empathetic. And
I'm sure they are.
That's all I can ask. So then when they got older, I wanted to work part-time because I wanted them to come, first. I wanted to be home and stuff. And I was able to do that. So that's when I went and worked in an ER for 8 years. And they
doing what, Meg?
I was a register. Like I'd go around to the rooms and register people, check their insurance, do all that kind of stuff.
What a perfect job for Meg.
It was. I really loved it. I really did. But what I was going to say, back to the original question, misunderstanding about me, it turned out they all took bets against me. Like, she's fake. She's never going to make it in the ER. And I hung in there. And I became
8 years.
8 years. And I became good friends with a lot of them. And they realized, okay, this is who she is. But I really think that's the biggest misconception. Like, oh my gosh, why is she so happy?
You're a lot like my friend Jeff Betsworth, who's been on this podcast twice, I think. It's a.k.a. Betsy. Just very sanguine, a lot like him. I mean, just very, there's a group of us at the gym, and I'm the designated hard ass. Because I just, me, I'm just a hard ass.
Yeah, you're good at that.
I'm serious, but he's like touchy feely like you. Like he can't if you met him, you'd be hugging within 0.5 seconds. It's like he's a hugger, and I'm not a hugger, and he's always touching me. Like if he's telling me a story, he's like poking me in the arm. Like are you fucking touching me right now? I mean,
oh, that's so funny. That must drive you crazy.
Actually, we're friends. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. We're actually at our gym. We have little annual awards, and we had the bromance award. So,
that's awesome.
Of course, he wasn't up there to accept it, and I think I walked up to accept it and flipped everybody off. So it was.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? There's just some people that are like he and myself, and but we connect. Like, we connected. I mean, I came to Nebraska. I got to see a Nebraska game with you. I got to meet your mom and your dad.
You're on the Powderhorn Ranch, yep.
Oh, my gosh. One of the greatest trips ever.
Did you, so tell my listeners, I don't know if you've listened to the podcast about my dad or anything, but tell my listeners, see, that was later in life where my dad was retired, so he wasn't quite, he was a little bit different. But what was your impression of my father, who was an absolute cowboy?
He absolutely was a cowboy, but I loved him. I loved him from the moment I met him. I loved him.
Yeah, because you went to hug him. I remember like you were like half hesitant to hug him. Like you're like if Meg had a tail, her tail was wagging. It was really fast. Like she really wanted to hug my dad. And Dad liked that. He liked girls that would hug him. So
yeah,
you were good. You were good.
I still can't see a Scotty dog and not think of your dad. I really can't.
Yeah, for the listeners, my dad for years was looking for these little Scotty dogs that are like little dog magnets, and I have no idea what the hell they are. And so I'm like, you know what? I think I called you and said, can you? And within 2 weeks, here comes the Scotty dogs, and he was so happy, happy, so happy.
He was a wonderful man. He was very warm and kind and gentle. And I know as your dad, you know a very different dad, but he was just completely lovely. But a man's man, definitely a cowboy.
Oh, yeah. And what about my mom? Because we haven't really talked about my mom. Actually, I'm trying to get people to come and talk about her, but they're just like, I can't do that. I'd start crying. But what was your impression of my mother? Because listeners really don't know a lot about Mom. I haven't really talked about her that much, honestly.
Just a very sweet, again, gentle woman to me. I mean, I felt a connection to her. I mean, you could see how much she loved her family, proud of where she was, proud of, loved talking to her, she would open up. I remember walking down the back of the house. What did we go see, though? We went and rode something, or we went to the back. We walked to the back, and I remember her walking, and she said, I'm amazed that you and my Samuel get along so well because you're so different. And I said, I know. But she was lovely. I felt like I knew both of them my whole life. That's how they made me feel. They really did. It was wonderful.
Yep. Good people. We miss them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So because you're so friendly and you're misunderstood because you are friendly, do people underestimate you, or do they overestimate you?
Underestimate me, definitely. Yeah, they definitely underestimate.
I would say that too, because it's a lot of people like me would just. My initial impression of you was probably like, she's just full of fluff. She's not. Yeah. She ain't gonna get things done. But then, like 5 minutes later, it's all done. Like, wow. And so that's really a gift that you have. It really is.
Well, it's definitely a blessing for me, and I don't mind being underestimated. It almost makes me feel like, oh, okay.
Well, I think everybody wants
brass tactics here.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to be underestimated unless they're a freaking sociopath. But is there an occupation you've never done but you'd like to try?
Do you promise not to make fun of me?
Of course.
I always wanted to be Julie on the Love Boat. Remember the Love Boat show? And Julie was the one who just did everything, made everybody happy, was so, checking on everyone. And I always thought, oh my gosh, that would be so fun to do.
I'll be honest, I've seen the Love Boat, but I don't know who it is. I just remember the gopher because he was a congressman at one point.
Right, he was. You're so right. But Julie was the short hair, kind of reddish hair, and she's the one who kind of greeted everyone and just always made sure things were done. Kind of just like, how I... Go ahead.
Queen of hospitality.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought that would be fun.
Why do you like to make other people feel good?
It makes me feel good. I honestly, when our families... No, listen, I mean it.
I'm only laughing because you're the female version of Guessworth.
When the family comes and if they bring distant friends, I remember a guy from California, friends of John's family, came. And he kept saying, like, I would get everything, and what do you need? And he's like, sit, relax, stop doing this. And I'm like, this makes me happy. It truly brings me happiness. And I don't know why. I really don't. And I'm 57 now, so it's not like I haven't.
Oh!
I don't mind. It's okay.
Yeah, well.
I don't mind. I
don't either, Meg. I love my age.
Yeah, I don't.
Over the hill and ready to roll, baby.
Yep, I think so too. I just have to get my limbs good, and then we're good. But I looked and I thought, why do I do this? And I have been this way my entire life. My parents said I always would do that at home, like try to do everything for my brothers and sisters and help my parents. And
is there something that happened when you were a child, do you think, that made you that way, or it's just inherently in your DNA? Was there an event that you may had to take care of somebody or something, or what?
Well, I mean, yeah, I brought it back to something when I was probably about 8 years old, and it was tough, and I don't know if it's the only thing I can think of. And it was this is so personal, but my parents were having an argument, and I was trying to sleep, and they both came in at different times trying to get me to side with them, which was heavy. I was 8.
That's a lot to ask of an 8-year-old.
Yeah, it was, and I don't know, like, that's the only thing I can bring it back to, like, is that what set me on this course of, wanting people around me to feel loved and safe and happy, and I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. They must have identified you as somebody that could help or wanted to help people early if they did that. Meg will bail me out, or that's interesting. It's really. Well, you have an older brother, right? So you're not the youngest.
No, I'm the oldest.
You are the oldest. Okay, so you are that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm the oldest, and I will tell you, they did this to me up until I was about 28 years old, when I finally wrote them.
Stop.
I said, that's it. I'm done. It's done. And I really ended it that day, and it's never been an issue since. But I wonder, is that why? I don't know.
I think so, Meg.
Yeah.
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it was. It really was. But part of my fiber, part of my tapestry. So it is what it is, right?
We all have our demons. I mean, it is what it is. That's right.
Yep, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing with the world. That's
you're welcome.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I've said that out loud to very many people, to be honest.
I have a reputation as podcast to get people to talk.
Yes, you do. I've heard it. Oh, my word.
Who's the most interesting person that Meg Goldthorp knows?
Oh, my goodness gracious. The most interesting person. You know what? My brother Ronnie. Ronnie. Yeah.
No, the last I knew of Ronnie, he's like a gypsy, isn't he?
Well, Samuel, I have to tell you. So Ronnie was an alcoholic for a long time, and it was when I was working with you, and he had his bottom, which is not a good story.
Well, I'm glad he lived through it.
He lived through it. He's now been sober longer than he was an active alcoholic.
Hey, well, let me take a minute and congratulate Ronnie, because that is awesome.
Yay, Ronnie!
That is awesome.
He's an artist, and he started a company. He's almost like getting a little famous. He's mastered this. He does his own art. He has his own art shows. He lives in Tampa, Florida. But he also has a company. He does Venetian plaster. I mean, he goes into, the owners of blah, blah football teams, blah, blah, owns food companies, and does their entire house, does intricate paintings on their ceiling, does the Venetian plaster, and he is just incredible. And he's really, really a bright guy. He knows so much about a lot of things. I love talking to him.
Well, no, he's been through hell and back, so good for him.
He really has, and I'm really proud of him, and he really is interesting. He always has something that I'm like, oh my gosh, really? So I would say my brother. Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is because I decided this week that I'm going to ask my guest that. question, because it's an interesting question to ask.
Yeah, it is.
I actually, the most interesting person that I know was I did release the podcast yesterday. It was her second time she's been on, Sheila Barden. But
my son Luke was looking at that one when we were waiting to get on.
yeah, well, should have Luke follow Sheila on Instagram. He might follow her. She's fit. So I'm gonna ask Yes that, and maybe
That's a
I
great
can.
question.
And the reason for it is because I maybe want to interview Ronnie someday. Because I like to interview interesting people.
Oh my gosh, Sam, he would do it. He is just, he's just amazing. He really isn't. And he started after he decided that day. He's always been an artist, but he did live hell and back for a long time.
Yeah.
And clearly didn't have a license when he started. He started on a bicycle, pulling a little trailer with paintbrushes and paint. And I had gotten sick right after that, so he started donating 10% of all of his income to the American Cancer Society, even though he really didn't have a lot then. And he's just brilliant. And he went from there and never looked back. He has all of that in him, but it's only made him wiser, and he's brilliant at business, and his art is just spectacular.
Sometimes our demons shape us for the better, and the world is better. Ultimately, you can do bad or you can do good, and he's chose to do good, and so my hat's off to him. Way to go! It's awesome.
He's pretty good.
It gives me shivers when people pull themselves out of their rut. It's tough business.
Me too. My son made me promise I wouldn't cry because I cry at happy, I cry at sad. He's like, I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't even have a mission to come in here to make you cry or anything. No, I know, but I'm just...
Well, I could if I wanted to.
Don't you do that to me, Samuel. We won't do that today. So Sheila is the most... that's who you think is the most interesting person.
Listen to the podcast and tell me she's not interesting.
Wait. I can't wait.
Listen to the first one. It's my 5th podcast I ever did, and thanks to her, she's like quasi-famous. Like, she has 180,000 Instagram followers.
Gosh.
She's a national athlete, or was CrossFit athlete. So she's got a big following, but and she used to be my CrossFit coach here in Omaha. But she's seriously the most interesting, unique person you'll ever. She's a gypsy.
Oh, I can't wait to hear her.
And check it out.
I will.
She's interesting. She is interesting. So anyway, so that kind of leads me to my next question, which is kind of my question of the year for my guests. And that is, this is like my therapy. Did you know that this podcast is like my therapy?
You know what? I loved when I heard that.
You what?
When I heard that, when you said that, you said it in one of the podcasts about your coach from high school. You had mentioned that this is your therapy with the gentleman who was on as your guest. And I thought, I just got goosebumps, by the way. What a brilliant way to work through some things. I think it's amazing.
Put it up there on the internet. So my question is, do you feel, do you think, or do you know? I know the answer to this, but that's the question of the year for my guests. Do you feel, do you think, or do you know?
I feel.
I know you do.
Yeah, right. I feel.
So does Chad, the producer, and so does Jeff Betzworth. You're a feeling person.
And you're a thinker, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Which is like, it's really kind of egghead, actually. I think Cowboys have more feel than think. But but the older I get, I've started to know some things too. I think only big guy knows. God knows. But
he knows all.
Because, and the reason I ask that question is because a lot of these kids, and I don't know if your kids do it or not, but when I say kids, like 30-year-olds, but they'll say, I feel like they're in the place of business, and they're saying, well, I feel like we need to do it this way, or I feel like I'm just like, I don't know, what are you talking about? You feel.
Yeah.
Do you talk? Do your kids talk like that? Do you? I've never heard you say "I feel this" or "I feel that."
No, and neither do the boys. No, not at all.
They don't.
No,
Okay.
they really don't.
But you know people who say that?
I do. I do. I definitely do.
You can communicate with them a lot better than I can. I mean, I've tried. I've tried to learn. Like, what are you talking about? You feel like I feel the stove is hot, so I'm going to remove my freaking finger. You know, it's not like I feel like we need to go in this strategic direction or that. It's more of a think. I've thought about it, and this is what I think we need to do. And I don't feel anything. I don't know.
I know. It's very. Has anybody ever explained to you what they mean when they say that, or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there are people that feel it in the depths of their stomach. Like you know, they're like you in the sense of they're very perceptive, sensitive. They sense things different than I do. You know, I'm a guy that if you've got bad news for me, just frickin' tell me. Just frickin' tell me. Don't dance around the subject. Tell me.
Right.
But there are people that don't communicate that way at all. That you've gotta dance around it, and you gotta
work it out of them.
I'm trying to understand all that, but it's very difficult for me.
It is. This whole millennial thing is very difficult for me. I mean, it really is.
Well, there's some really good millennials out there. Sheila Barton's a millennial. Brandon Preston's been in my podcast, a millennial.
My kids are right on the border. My kids are right on the border, I think, of millennial and
I think they're called Ys or Z.
They're not Gen X or Z?
Z. I think they're Zs. I'm not sure.
Oh, gosh. Who came up with that anyway?
I don't know. And a lot of it has to do with, your kids can't imagine a world without computers. Well, you and I can. So a lot of it has to do with, they can't imagine a world without iPhones. I mean, we did just fine without iPhones. You know,
I mean, we did.
I remember when we got that big check. Ann and I got that big check. It was like the first time I think I'd ever used a cell phone. Honest to God, I never had a cell phone up at that point, and so Ann's got this bulky freaking flip phone.
I remember it in her car.
How do I do this? So
I remember that.
So a lot of it, I think, has to do with technology and the generational.
I agree. 100%.
You know, I mean, Meg, if I had YouTube growing up, holy cow, I would have been on YouTube all the time. I love it. You know,
I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't do that.
Really?
The kids will go. Both of my kids admit it's not a great thing. It does kind of affect their life in a negative way sometimes.
It'll take you down a rabbit hole if you let it. Yeah.
And that's what happens with them. I'm like, what are you doing to them sometimes? Ian will lay upstairs for 4 hours on YouTube just watching mindless things. And he's like, oh, Mom, I didn't mean to be up here that long. I just, it just happened. And I don't know, even now.
But are they mindless? Or, I mean, I look up stuff that I want to know. No. I'm not one of these people how do you change your oil? You can find I don't do that. But, I mean, obviously, you know who Hey, Meg, who's my favorite guitar player of all time?
Yes, I know who that is, George Lynch.
All right, see, the audience knows that she's... Actually, I don't think I've even talked about George Lynch on this podcast, but...
how is that even possible?
But I don't know. Well,
do you remember when we went and saw him?
I just saw him on the Kiss Cruise, and he told me he'd come on this podcast, which
I hope he does. You said he wanted to work out with you.
He did.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's insane. But anyway, I'll go to not to get down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
but,
right.
I'll go down. I'll just look at George Lynch videos all day long because I'm learning how to play guitar, and I'm just like, my God, how does he do that? And you just look at it over and over and over. So it's an instructional thing for me. And but it will lead you to other videos, and it's But I think anyway, that's where they define the generations is what technology was available, I think, to you or you're exposed to.
And they definitely, I feel like sometimes know so much more than I ever could have known about things, just in general. My son Luke is very, very, very political. Like anything you want to know about Red, you go to him. He knows what's happening.
Which one? Ian or Luke?
Luke.
Really?
He wants to be in the FBI, Sam. He wants to be a profiler.
Cool.
So he is...
Go for it.
Yeah, we're actually, it's exciting.
Stay away from alcohol and drugs, Luke. Do not. Damn booze will get you in trouble.
Oh my gosh, he is like the mother to his friends. He's like, he'll get a call and he's like, all right, yeah, you can come here. You said you weren't going to drink. You said you weren't going to smoke, and you did it again. It's stupid. Why do you do it?
Good.
He won't even go to parties because he doesn't want to be around it.
Good boy. Good.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Well, tell him Secret Service is better than the FBI, but it's okay.
He'd love that too, I think. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. If you feel, think, or no, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
My compassion.
Yeah.
I really think my compassion. I've tried to give it to teach my boys, compassion and teach them the difference between compassion and empathy. But for me, I would say compassion.
Yeah. Well, mission accomplished, kid. You're doing good.
Thanks. How about you?
Oh, turn the tables. I would want people to say Sam Fisher was comfortable in his own skin and he never took a shortcut in his life.
I like that. I really like that too. No, you are who you are. I mean, I adore you. You know that. I always have.
Well,
that's when I see you, I'm like, oh, there's my Samuel. Because you look the same to me too. You do. Oh my God, it's crazy. And I miss your Heather. Give her lots of love from me.
Oh yeah, we all know that I outkicked my coverage on that deal.
How's your brother and sister?
They're doing good. They're fine.
Good. Is your brother still on the ranch?
Yeah, and he's got a son that's contemplating whether or not if he wants to go back. He's in technical school right now for agriculture, ag business. So he's at a crossroads, and yeah, they're doing fine. Yeah, my sister is in Denver, and she's doing fine too. So she's
she's been there a while.
She's a manager of millennials at Oracle.
Is she really? Oh my God, bless her.
Yeah, she talks to me about how you have to tell people, these feely people, how you deal with them. Like it'd be exhausting. But anyway, okay, a couple more questions, and I won't keep you too long here.
No, I'm having fun. I was so nervous, but I'm having fun.
Nervous?
I know. I don't know.
The wallet question is another question I have this season. My copywriter friend Gary Reed, who's been on a previous episode, always gets great questions, and he says, ask him, what do you carry in your purse or wallet that's important to you that isn't monetarily related? Do you carry anything?
Yes, of course.
What?
I have a little 2 open fold with hearts in the clear screen, and I have every one of the kids' pictures on one side is Ian and one side is Luke. Every school picture, even from when they were a baby. Like, that's what I would grab first out of my, if it went down. Yeah, honestly.
See, you're a feely person.
I know.
You're a feely person. Now, if you ask me that question, you know what I would say? I would say my national retired law enforcement carry conceal permit.
Well, that's always been important to you.
Well, it brings me peace.
Yeah, it does. That's good. And it's amazing, right? Oh my Lord.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Just that brings you peace. That brings me peace. It's just different things.
Yep, absolutely.
Gosh, Meg, I don't know what else. What did you want to talk about? What's one question I should have asked you, but I haven't yet?
Really? Oh my gosh. I don't know. What am I doing now?
Yeah, what are you doing now?
Well, unfortunately,
you're not in the ER.
No, because unfortunately, Samuel had a fall a couple of years ago, and I have had to I fractured both my tibias, tore both shoulders and my rotator cuffs.
Good for you.
I know, right? I do it big. When I do it, Samuel, I go big, you know.
Get the job done.
Done. So I have been having fun with surgeries and physical therapy and just out of my mind, done with it all. And I'm almost there.
Well, keep after it. That PT is really, that's important. And,
Right.
you know, you go to your local CrossFit gym, they'll get it all built back up.
I wanted to ask you, tell me about CrossFit.
Oh, dear
Like,
Lord.
is it
How much time do you have?
Well,
You know,
is it like a regular
like-
gym or what is it?
Meg, it's like,
I know.
you don't ask a CrossFitter, what do you think of
Okay.
CrossFit? It's like a diarrhea of the mouth, man. It's like, did you hear the joke about the CrossFitter and the evangelical Christian and the insurance agent walked into a bar? You know how I know?
How?
Because they told me. That's why.
Did you join this? How long ago did you join it?
8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's, you know, I for years I tried to find something that, I don't know. I was up and down for years. I gained 30 pounds, lose 30 pounds, and it was all based on election cycle. So even years up, odd years down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
And so I got really heavy, and at 282 pounds, I looked at the scale and I said, bullshit. And so I actually started weight training with a trainer for 2 years, and I had a guy by the name of Kerry Evans who's been on my podcast.
Okay.
For years, he was a business partner. He's like, you gotta get in CrossFit, you gotta get in CrossFit. Oh, shut! I can't do that. Can't do that.
Yeah.
And because you see these workouts, you're like, what are these people insane?
I couldn't imagine.
Well, you know, do 100 burpees for time. That's your workout today. I mean, good God.
I can't. That's the thing. I can't do anything.
Like a good CrossFitter, I can tell you what my PR for that is. It's 9 minutes. But anyway,
9 minutes.
not bad for an old man, honestly. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I got involved. I got involved in it, and I haven't really looked back. It's an interesting thing. I like it. I'll tell you why I like it. I like it because, number one, no two days are ever the same, which I really like. You see these people go to the gym and they're doing the same thing 3 times a week. And so no 2 days are ever the same. It really challenges you, not only from the physical. Honestly, it's more of a mental challenge than it is a physical challenge. And I like that. And I've seen results. So, at age 54, I'm setting new records for things like, bench press or deadlift or hang cleans or, what?
That's amazing.
But it's not just weightlifting. It's also aerobic stuff. So, how many calories, how long does it take you to burn 10 calories on the exercise, on the assault bike? Stuff like that. And
so it's all different, and that's cool that it mixes it up.
It gives you a tremendous adrenaline high, and the endorphins that are released after a tough workout are unlike anything I've ever experienced. And Sheila talks about that in her podcast too. I mean, she's addicted to the rush.
Right.
But it's definitely a cult. CrossFit is a cult. I've said that on here before, but a cult is just life-changing behavior. We're not chopping people's heads off. We're trying. The mission is to get people to live longer, basically, and to be healthier. So
that's great.
Anyway, you would love it. You would love the community.
I have to look around here and see. I have to get better because right now my limbs are a little not
well,
good.
You think you have to get better, but you go tell them what shape you're in, and they'll scale for you so that you can. They're not going to hurt you. They don't. If it's a good gym, we'll talk offline about how to do this because I'll talk for hours.
Okay.
But try it if you want to. I'm never going to force anybody to CrossFit.
But it'd be interesting to check it out.
Yeah.
It would be really interesting to check it out because I have weird things. Like, I lost my right kneecap. So, unfortunately, I walk with a cane right now, which, let me tell you,
I have a buddy of mine
to accept.
I have a buddy of mine that has he's got no tissue, cartilage in his knees whatsoever.
Wow.
And he goes every day. He's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a herniated disc in my back, and I go every day.
And does it help you? Do you feel stronger, better with? Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things I can't do anymore. You can't get stupid, but
No.
yeah, if you're moving, anytime you're moving, it's better. So
Yeah, I agree.
that's all it is. Is movement. It's just movement. So
Yeah.
anywho, well,
that would be-
sorry, listeners had to listen
Yes.
to CrossFit. They have before. They will.
Sorry, I asked the question. I was curious.
Yeah.
But it'll be helpful.
Yep. Last question is another psychological question. This is it. I swear.
Okay, that's okay.
Have you ever hid behind a smile in your life?
Yes.
You have.
Absolutely. Yes.
Intentionally?
Not often, but to be honest, let me think. I can think of 2 times that was intentional because
Yeah. Well, you have to.
Yeah, I had no choice.
Survival mode kind of a thing,
Right,
or whatever.
right. And you're trying to do the right thing because you don't want to do the wrong thing. So you just kind of force that moment. And I never regretted forcing it because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people hide behind a smile all the time. I mean, I can't. I'm a terrible poker player.
Yeah, no,
but,
But all the other ones are for real. I mean,
right.
You can see I have all these wrinkles here from how much I smile. Did you know that did you know these young girls today, literally, the reason I've had 4 of them tell me they don't smile because they don't want smile wrinkles. What?
I smack him in the head.
I know, I want to. Like, really? That's horrible, I think. What a waste.
I agree.
I agree.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well,
listen, friend, it's been good talking to you. Listeners, this is what it's like when you haven't talked to somebody in 18 years. This is what happens.
I know, just catching up. It was so fun. It really was.
Picked up right where we left off. So.
I know, and that's true friendship, I think.
Yep, I agree.
I do.
All right.
I really appreciate it. I was nervous, and you made me feel so comfortable.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Didn't even make you cry, so.
You did. I'm so proud of myself. And now my son just texted me, and he's at the train station in Cherry Hill, so I get to go get him now.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me. It was fun.
Chad, are you there? I have to text.
Okay.
There he is.
Hi, Chad. Good. How are you?
Did you hear how Meg was all